Brown acid. What is it? Well, I'm here to tell you all about that today. My name's Lance Barresi. I'm the owner of Permanent Records and the curator of the Brown Acid compilation series on Writing Easy Records. Brown Acid is a series of compilations that focuses on the genres of hard rock, heavy, psych, and proto-metal, primarily from the late 60s and early 70s. Most of the records we license, and we do fully license them, are privately pressed or independently pressed records from back in the day. Most of them are American. There are occasionally Canadian, Mexican, European, or otherwise releases, but this is primarily an American affair, the Brown Acid Comp series. Something I'm super proud of, and I've been doing it for a long time. I've been curating this series of comps since 2015. We have the 18th volume coming out on 4/20, of course, and well, I say of course, the new volumes come out twice a year, once on Halloween and also on 4/20. And I have talked in previous videos about my massive 45 collection. Well, let's not say massive, that's all relative, right? I have 10 or 12 quality boxes of that sort of stuff, the hard rock, the heavy psych, and the proto-metal 45s, primarily private pressings from the late 60s and early 70s. And I want to show some of them today. So I recently did a DJ gig at a venue here for a show with two of my favorite local bands, Early Moods and Death Chant. Both of those bands kill. Early Moods is a doom band that sounds like the best early doom worship you could possibly imagine. Heavy Black Sabbath vibes, dual lead guitar, crunchiness, and just like bang the head that doesn't bang type stuff. Super good, really melodic, unlike a lot of metal bands who, just kind of are heavy but don't really understand or care about melody. Death Chant, shout out also my homies. They are kind of like a hybrid of Motorhead and Thin Lizzy. Both of those bands are on Writing Easy Records, and that's partially because of my relationship with the label. But that said, we're not here to talk about Death Chant or Early Moods right now. Talking about 45s. So I have the same carrier. I brought these records in. This bad boy. Super heavy. This is a really nice custom 45, double wide 45 carrier I got from a friend in Chicago back when I lived there, and it's been with me ever since. I haven't lived in Chicago since 2011. No, yeah, 2011 is when I moved to LA. All right, well, without further ado, I'll show some 45s. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of the details of these things. I won't say this is the genre of them for the most part because they are all of the same ilk. These are all hard rock, heavy psych, and proto-metal or proto-metal 45s from back in the day. Some of them are European, some of them are American, some of them are from other places, Africa, etc. Anyway, strap. Go check this out. This 45 rules. Are You Ready, Lazy People is the track I usually play off of that. I can't remember off the top of my head where Strap is from, but this single was originally released on RCA Records, not a private pressing. Golden Voice, that's a great label. You have to introduce yourself or familiarize yourself with. Golden Voice was, I believe, primarily Peoria, somewhere in that part of Illinois based operation, primarily in the 60s and into the 70s, I believe. like Peppermint Studios in Youngstown, Golden Voice had a ton of heavy rock stuff on their label. A lot of garage too, but they dip into the brown acid territory frequently. And I am about to work with the guy behind the label on a kind of brown acid, a Golden Voice centric brown acid comp here in the very near future, near future. This year, hopefully. Blue Erebus is how I believe you pronounce this band name. I've been trying to track these guys for a long time. Unfortunately, have gotten nowhere, but I do have the original single on the King James label. That is some heavy psych stuff. Here's a killer one. This is the band. It's called Super Chief, named after the train, I believe. This is a two-sider. Not every one of these 45s actually has two good sides. As you can see, you got Red Brain Woman on this side of this Prince single, and on the flip, you got Animal Woman. Both songs rip. Unfortunately, I couldn't license this one for Brown Acid. Numero Group beat me to that one, and they put that on either Dark Scorch Canicles or Acid Nightmares, one of the two heavy rock comps that they've done. I'm going to skip this next one because I'm still trying to license it, and I can't show it just yet. But rest assured, it's a good one. Here's a Brown Acid banger. This is Sweet Wine, bringing me all back home. I do not remember which volume of Brown Acid this is on. It's so hard to keep track these days. But anyway, yeah, it's all of the labels on the majority of these singles are just made up labels that the bands came up with that did no other releases aside from these 45s here in particular. Here's another Brown Acid banger. Did I do this one on Brown Acid? I think so. I can't remember, to be honest. But anyway, the band's called Tabernash. Track's called Head Collect. Almost positive we did this on Brown Acid, and now I can't remember. Yeah, pretty sure. Craig Hute, I talked with him, and he may have also been in another band. Karma? Can't remember. But anyway, a lot of the people that performed, played in these bands back in the late 60s and early 70s, played in bands, garage bands before then, and then played in other bands afterwards. It's being a musician is kind of a lifer move. You rarely spend as much time as it takes to play music in a professional band and then just give it up once that band breaks up. Most of the people that I talk to have been playing music their whole lives and are still doing it if they're still with us. Here's a Frenchie. This is, don't ask me to pronounce this, but I pronounce it Takpum Systeme. I don't know if that's correct spelling, but this is just a really heavy psych 45. I believe both tracks on this record are killer, but I usually play As Modai when I play that record. Here's a Spanish record that you may or may not have seen the LP by. This band's called Topimon. They have at least two great LPs. I believe Garrison reissued one of them, the one with the pink skull on the cover. Anyway, these guys, hard and heavy, power trio, as you can see. Man, look at this guy. If that image doesn't scream Brown Acid, I really don't know what does. And I love that the flip is very similar, but not quite exactly the same. Yeah, Spanish guys, Topimon. They have LPs as well if you're not into collecting 45s. And I can't say that I blame you because this habit gets expensive really quickly. Not that collecting LPs can't, but this particular habit is, it's gotten very expensive, especially recently. That said, there are definitely some cheaper bangers in here, and I'll show those off as well. This band, I believe, is from Australia, if I'm not mistaken. The James Taylor Move. Um, you know, gotta. I mean, you can't imagine a band like this having any luck or taking off with a band name like James Taylor Move. Sometimes, you know, the reason these bands weren't successful is pretty obvious in hindsight, but it's not because they weren't incredible musicians. These guys, for the most part, men, some women, but these people knew how to play their instruments just as well as the pros. They just didn't have they weren't at the right place at the right time with the right luck. And those three things are huge in, even nowadays, huge in determining your success in the music business. I was going to say something else. Oh, yeah, the reason I got into collecting 45s is because I was DJing. I always had a few 45s, but I was mostly an LP collector back in, you know, pre 2013, 2011, somewhere in there, when I moved to LA and started DJing more regularly, specifically every Wednesday night for 6 years at a bar called the Black Boar in Northeast LA. Um, I I bought mostly LPs for myself in my personal collection and didn't really understand the appeal of 45s until I started DJing so regularly. The portability, that carrier I showed earlier, I could do probably 8 hours worth of music with that, somewhere in that ballpark. And in order to play 8 hours worth of music off of LPs without repeating tracks off the same LP, you need a bunch of crates of records, you know, a bunch of crates of full lengths. And so I got super into the idea of buying more 45s. They're A, more portable, and B, easier to queue up, especially in a noisy bar where you might be kind of like hanging with your friends and talking about the records all while DJing at the same time. I found it just a lot more enjoyable of an experience if I was dealing primarily with 45s. And then once I opened that Pandora's box, it got really out of control really quickly, and so on and so forth. Fast forward, I meet Daniel from Riding Easy. He finds out about my DJ night and the mixtapes that I was making from those DJ nights, and then I pitched the idea of the Brown Acid series to him, and the rest is history. Okay, here's another one, Third World. This is another one we comped on Brown Acid. Both sides of this 45 are amazing. That band was from Oklahoma. Here we go. Third World War, Ascension Day. I know I apologize that, you know, the 45s, especially ones without picture sleeves, aren't much to look at. But, you know, maybe you're enjoying this. And if you are, please comment below and subscribe to my channel, because that's the only way I know if you're actually liking it. If I got subscribers, then I'll know that you're liking it, and I'll keep making videos like this. So onward and upward. Southern Railway. This is a cool one. That's a hard Southern rock vibe. I can't recall if we've licensed that or not, but I'm pretty sure I've been in touch with those people. This band's called Space Rock. The side we comped on Brown Acid is called Going Down the Road. The flip of this was comped on Dark Scorch Canicles on Numero Group. SRC. The SRC stands for Scott Richardson something. Anyway, Scott Richardson is one of the guys in SRC. This is a privately pressed 45 by a band that primarily, or not primarily, but that is known for being on Capitol Records. They did at least 2 Capitol Records LPs. both of which are fairly attainable. Both, the first is amazing, the second is also quite good, but nothing compares to the best track on this 45. It's called Badass Shuffle, and yeah, if I could license this for Brown Acid, I would. I think I've been in touch with them and gotten nowhere, if I remember correctly. Speaking of Capitol Records, here's a banger. The band's called Stained Glass, and although their LP has more of like a rural psych vibe, this track is like heavy prog adjacent hard rock. It's really, really killer, and you have to check it out. Somebody wrote psych on it. It might be slightly psychedelic, but it also was attained by me for $5, and I think you can get that 45 fairly inexpensively. Here's a banger, Stoned Mace, Tasmania. This record was comped on, I think, both sides, if I'm not mistaken, on Numero Group's Dark Scorch Canicles compilation. Here's a really, really heavy psych track. The song on this is called Oceans Inside Me. The label is Angelus Records, which you may recall was the same label that put out the Fraction Moonblood LP. Speaking of Fraction, that reissue's coming soon, so stay tuned for more details on that. Writing Easy Records. Writing Easy Records and I also licensed this version of Oceans Inside Me for Brown Acid. This is a slightly different version than you'll hear on the LP that Garrison sub-label, or maybe Garrison itself, did with more tracks by Stone Garden. I believe Stone Garden never put out an LP back in the day, and those tracks are, aside from the ones on the single, are archival. By the way, the side of this tape just ended, and I'm going to just remain in silence, but if you were enjoying what was going on in the background, that's what we were just listening to. This is Mick Valenti. He was in a band called Quick Fox. Quick Fox did a single that we comped on Brown Acid, and the title of the track, I want to say, is Indian Man or something. I'm spacing on that. But either way, he also did a power pop 45 called Pretty Baby, I believe. That's definitely not Brown Acid material. And he was commissioned to do this cassette of instrumental music. If you heard it in the background, it like jumps back and forth between being ambient new agey type stuff to like crunchy heavy metal guitar riffs. Well, he was commissioned by a satanic cult to write and record a soundtrack, I guess, to their rituals. I don't know what they use this music for, but Zasas is what this cassette's called, and we have a couple copies of this. If you want one, I can probably hook you up. Anyway, it's an odd one, but good background music for a YouTube video like this one. All right, what's next? Here we go. Terry Brooks and Strange. That's a crazy looking record label, right? Terry Brooks and Strange did a bunch of records. I have an LP or two on the shelf here. I definitely have Translucent World, probably a later one as well. He was a big Jimi Hendrix fan, and he was a guitar god as well. I say was. Terry Brooks is still with us as far as I know, last time I checked. And anyway, his band, Strange, did some amazingly psychedelic, heavy guitar records, heavy rock guitar records back in the mid to late 70s and into the 80s as well. Here's one of the wildest heavy psych records. This one's from Missouri, so it's near and dear to my heart. This band's called Summit, and the track The Darkness is The Darkness. It is a really, really dark, heavy psych track, and that's a totally that's a subgenre in and of itself. It's you know, heavy psych is one thing, dark heavy psych is a different thing altogether, and that checks both of those boxes. Here's one by Mike Stewart Span. This is Children of Tomorrow on the Jewel label. The Jewel label's not primarily known for doing hard rock or heavy psych, but you know, there's little outliers in all on all labels that you wouldn't expect, and that's kind of the beauty of record collecting, isn't it? Especially 45s. This is Scrooge at 45s, called Cheap Love. It's kind of a proto-punk banger. This is one I will show you, but can't say a whole lot more about. This is the Smokin' Buku band, Hot Love. You haven't heard this on Brown Acid yet, but you may be hearing it on Brown Acid soon. Yeah, April. Don't tell anybody I told you that. Brown Acid 18, Smokin' Buku band, Hot Love. That's a banger. That's like a Zeppelin-y. It's like if Zeppelin and MC5 or the Stooges had a baby. All right, Gambler. You may have, if you follow the Brown Acid series, you may recognize the name Bartos Brothers Band. Well, before they decided to change their name, the Bartos brothers called themselves Gambler and wrote a song called Gambler and released that 45 on Chance Records. Gambler, Chance, get it? This is an extremely rare 45. I don't think one of these has come up for sale since we comped it on Brown Acid. The band, and it's a two-sider as well. The band is called Pegasus. This side's called Sorcerer, and you got Ready to Rave. Both sides of this 45 were comped on Brown Acid. It's a really killer two-sider, and again, both tracks are on Brown Acid, different volumes of Brown Acid. All right, here's one that is kind of a recent discovery for me. Warren Gunther, Tell It All. This guy's got a crazy backstory. Go look up Warren Gunther sometime. I won't get into it any further here, but it's very much a truth is stranger than fiction kind of situation. All right, here we go. We got this band, I believe, from Michigan, called San Francisco Trolley. And yeah, the track Signs was comped on Brown Acid. I don't know what else to say about that, aside from that track rips, and I love it. Just like I love all of these. So here's a fun one, and one that maybe you are already familiar with. Well, Greg Raleigh was a member of Santana. I got Satan on the brain. Whoa. Greg Raleigh, member of Santana. He was a keyboard player. He sang a couple of songs. I Hope You're Feeling Better is a Santana banger that Carlos Santana doesn't sing on, and my copy has a fun jukebox strip in it. And this that's a $1 record. That's like one of the best $1 records you could ever possibly buy in the genre. And like I said, the collecting this stuff can get really expensive nowadays. Some of these records have gone up in value substantially since I started doing the Brown Acid series. It's like wild to look at the pop psych hits for some of these 45s going back to pre-2015 and what they're at now. We're talking like the difference between 20 and 200 or more in some cases. It's phenomenal. So anyway, here's another garagey heavy psych banger. This one's called Savage Lost by The Collection. I think we did that one on Brown Acid. Pretty sure. Can't recall now. All right, we're running out of time here. Let's try to keep it cruising. Here's another one. I don't know why. For my DJ gig, all I did was grab a box with A and B in it from the beginning of the alphabet, a box with M's, bands that begin with the letter M, because I had just done a radio show on NTS, which I do monthly, by the way. You can find that easily online. The show is called Brown Acid Trippin' on NTS Radio online. And anyway, I had the M box. Because I do that show alphabetically, I've gone letter by letter through my collection from A through M so far, and I plan on continuing that trend. And then I grabbed a box of R's and S's, I think. So this is a random smattering. This is Arrogance from North Carolina. This track is called Black Death. Numero Group did a compilation. Oh, yeah, Arrogance, I believe, was on Dark Scorch Canticles, but they also did an Arrogance LP of other recordings. You know, you gotta have Black Sabbath. Electric Funeral. I have a handful of major label records. Well, more than a handful, but quite a few major label records in my collection. And, you know, you gotta have Black Sabbath. Here's another two-sider, Blizzard. This record is out of control, Hendrix worship. The guitar player in this band's name is Rod McClure. They're from Oklahoma. Both sides of this 45 are out of control. So heavy, so blistering. Yeah, Blizzard doesn't even begin to describe how overwhelming the insanity is on these 45s, but they're both really great songs as well. And unbelievably, Rod McClure, I think he told me he was 15 or 16 when he put out this record. Just unfathomable these days. Here, I get to give a little shout out to my buddy Adam Bonatti from Ancient Greece Records. This is a record I've had for a long time. I paid $200 for it for, I don't know, it was like 10 years ago or something like this. This is a two-sider. Adam Bonatti at Ancient Greece reissued this 45, thankfully, so we can all get one at a reasonable rate. This is far more than a $200 45 now. It's self-released on Intense Records. Band's called Magic, Cotton Candy, and Make Up Your Mind are the tracks on that. Both are just incredible heavy psych numbers. And yeah, if the reissue is still available, I highly recommend going to grab one from Ancient Greece. And back to the Brown Acid. We got Mike's, Mihal, and White Owl, or I'm sorry, I've Been You is the name of this record on, this is Zetop Records. Again, Mike Mihal, we licensed this track from him. This is crazy psych stuff, and it's got so many layered synthesizers on it, it kind of gets overwhelming at times. But it would also work in like a heavy glam set too. It's like really catchy, a catchy kind of glam stomper, if you will. All right. Speaking of oddball records on well-known record labels, well, you know Chess Records, you know Cadet, their subsidiary. Well, they're primarily known for blues, R&B, soul, you know, that sort of thing, jazz. Well, they also got into the heavy psych game with studio musicians who performed under the name Magic Swirling Ship. You've probably heard of the Cassinets and Cats, like their bubblegum music projects. Well, this one's not on Buddha or Kama Sutra. This one's on Cadet. It's called Magic Swirling Ship, and the banger on here is a mostly instrumental heavy psych number called He's Coming Part 2. I don't think He's Coming Part 1 was ever released, but that's a damn shame, because He's Coming Part 2 is a banger for the ages. This is also not a particularly expensive record. I think we have stock copies of these on our website, permanentrecordsla.com, right now, with the original company picture sleeve or company sleeve. And we're almost at 30 minutes now, so we'll take a break. We'll come back another time with more 45s from my personal collection. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please subscribe to this channel so that I know you want me to continue to make more content like this. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I've been Lance Barresi, owner of Permanent Records and the Permanent Records Roadhouse, and the curator of Brown Acid and the Scrap Metal series on Writing Easy Records. Take the brown acid, y'all.